What's going on, footy family? Welcome back to another video on my channel, and today we're going to be previewing round 5, Port Adelaide versus Carlton at the MCG this Saturday night, kicking off at 6:55 PM. It's going to be a massive game. Our first match at the MCG in just over 2 years. It's been such a long time coming, and we're going to be back at the home of football, as they say, against the Blues, who are looking to get a big scalp. And I'll tell you what, if you're looking to get a big scalp, none other than Port Adelaide, who are in pretty decent form at the moment. So without further ado, let's preview round 5 and see where these two teams stand ready for Saturday night. Let's tick a couple of things off the shopping list first. If you haven't already, check out Blue Abroad. I did a preview with them just yesterday, so that's out at the moment on their channel. So make sure you go check out that video. Terry and the crew over there are doing a sensational job, so make sure you check that out. And also check out my latest episode of A Less Is More, my podcast. It's been running for a few weeks now, so if you haven't already, check that out. All the links will be in the description below. But let's get into this preview, and I'm telling you now, I'm a little bit edgy about this one because Carlton always seem to play pretty decent footy against us. We have no further to go than last year in round 7 when we bet them after the siren, thanks to the man himself, Robbie Gray. This one is a bit different though. Back at the G, it's going to be one game that stands, probably a pretty big result for Carlton, I think, if they can get the job done, because they're looking for a scalp. They've beaten a Fremantle side in Melbourne. They've beaten hapless Gold Coast up there, and well, they're looking for that big scalp, and I think they've been finding their form a bit. They've had pretty decent losses against Richmond and Collingwood, and now they've had pretty decent wins against both, as I said, Gold Coast and Fremantle, and they're looking for that scalp. 3-2 won't look so bad for them after 5 rounds, and I think 3-2 for Port Adelaide will look a bit scarce. In particular, we're a premiership fancy, and losing a game against someone like a Carlton, who, if you're a premiership contender looking to finish top 4, then you've got to be winning these games, and it is a danger game for Port Adelaide. So there's a lot to play out at the G on Saturday night. I think more so than ever, it's going to be one of those games that will be a pretty frustrating one for Port fans. We're losing a couple of key players in Dersma and Butters. Yes, they're in their 3rd season of AFL footy, and you don't expect them to have such a massive impact, but they do. Butters' inside contested work, and his footy IQ is enormous, and really, whatever he touches, he does turn into gold, and it's absolutely exceptional. And Xavier Dersma, we're losing his pace on the wing, his run, his carry, and his ability to get back and help out defensively, taking intercept marks and contested marks down there. And it was a perfect example. Both of those players did all of that against the Tigers, and I think it contributed massively in the first 3.5 quarters. And I just think now we're going to have to find a couple of extra boys to stand up and really take advantage of what's going to be a pretty long-term injury for both Butters and Dersma. Butters, I think, for 6 weeks, and Dersma 12 to 14. So, you look at that, and you look at the Carlton side of things, and they're going to get McGovern back most likely, and Williams back from injury, and you throw that into the mix, and they've got some real key pillars down forward with Harry Mackay, who's been in exceptional form. Then you've got Paddy Cripps in the middle, and Jacob Wiedering down back is someone I signify with Liam Jones. Those two are a wonderful duo, and our forwards will have our work cut out for them, I think. Charlie Dixon, who hasn't kicked a goal in a couple of weeks, is going to have to find something. Mitch Georgiadis will most likely have to stand up. Whether or not Todd Marshall comes back in will be a different story, but it's a real question mark, I think, for Port Adelaide at the moment. We're finding our goals through other assets like Motlop, Fantasia, Robbie Gray, the smaller tops, but you'd really like to see our big key forwards. It's become a big key forward game, and if Mackay is dominating at one end, you'd love to see Dixon at the other kick at least a bag of 4 or 5 this weekend, because it's something we've always lacked, is that big, presentable key forward. And Dixon's done it, exponentially over the course of the tenure he's been at Port Adelaide, but it's never consistently enough. Last year, 2020, was probably the most consistent he's been, and he rocked up with 30-odd goals in 17 games, and I'm looking for that. We're looking for that 50 goal mark from our forwards this year, and at the moment, Orazio is leading our campaign with 9, and after 4 rounds, an average of 2 goals per game. I know we get a lot of spread from our forwards, and we can be really dangerous. Connor Rosie's been another one that's been able to kick a few goals, even on one leg last week. And I think if we're a chance to really exploit Carlton, it's down in defence, and have so many options down there if we can exploit their defensive unit. Wiedering and Jones will do the jobs on Georgiadis and Dixon, but it's our smalls that will be more than capable to, I think, really take it up to Carlton this weekend. So whether or not we trust our game process throughout the middle, I think the midfield's got to be on this week. Again, I know they've had such a good week last week against the Tigers, and it was really great to see the likes of Wines, Boak, Houston running through there a bit more, and I think it's mainly that factor that if we can get the ball quickly moving forward, get a few stoppages inside our forward half, I think Carlton, whilst they'll have a quick spread, and we like to play our defensive unit quite attackingly, especially with Aliir, who likes to play in front on his opponent and help out in the contest area. And if we can create more contests than one-on-ones in Carlton's 50, then I think we're doing a good job. I back Aliir in that contested area more so than I do one-on-one, but he was exceptional last week, and I think if he can contest the way he does and has been, Mackay's going to have his work cut out. And that's the matchup I think you've got to take. And if McGovern comes in, then Cleary will go on to him, and Jonas will have to float from... There will be a certain matchup in there for him, I think. And Eddie Betts is down there as well and has always played pretty good footy against Port Adelaide. So I think Darcy Byrne-Jones might have to go to him, and maybe Ryan Burton as well. I'd be looking to push Ryan Burton up a bit more. I think with Dersma out, Burton has that capacity to really utilise his skills and run and carry. He's got quite good pace on him. And that's dependent on selection, and that's whether or not we bring in say a Farrell for that wing option, or we just chop and change bits and pieces here and there. And speaking of changes, obviously with the two forced ones, Dersma and Butters, I think we're going to have it's an interesting one. I'm filming this obviously before selections have been done, but it's really interesting to see what path we go. Do we go a first gamer? I'm looking at Jackson Mead, give him an opportunity. Or do we go down that path of bringing back a Bergman, bringing back a Caden Farrell, or Boyd Woodcock could get another opportunity, was really good in the Magpies win last week against Centrals. And another one as well is Pete Laddams was dropped last week for Todd Marshall to stay in the side, and Todd Marshall was a late withdrawal, so Laddams had to come back in. So does that change happen again? Does Marshall come back in for Laddams? Pitnet's been really good in the ruck, so I think that'll be a really good matchup with Lysette. And we saw Charlie Dixon go into the ruck a couple of times throughout the game, and I thought his influence in there was actually quite good to get him in the contest. So whether or not we go back with our two rucks and back in Laddams again, or you go with Marshall coming in, you have Marshall, Georgiadis, and Dixon might chop out in the ruck here and there. So if Dixon's on fire, then you definitely have to go for giving Dixon that more inside 50 time, because he did dominate last year against Carlton. Didn't kick straight, but he gave Liam Jones a bath. And I think, again, you got to exploit that. And Charlie Dixon's a massive, massive unit. He's very, very good one-on-one. You've got to give him that opportunity. So I think I do mind the path of going down, Marshall coming back, Laddams going out. They all can run and all can pinch hit where possible. So that's probably my thoughts at the moment. Would like to see, as I said, a debutant with Jackson Mead, probably. But that's up to the selectors, so we'll just have to wait and see on that one. But yeah, it's an interesting game, and I'm very edgy about it. I do want to get the win because our next month or so is quite interesting. But we've got to focus on this week first and foremost, and this is a big opportunity. We have to take it. So my tip for this week, I'm tipping Port Adelaide by 16 points. Back at the G, first time in a while. We do like playing at the MCG, actually. It does suit our game style a little bit. It might be a bit wider, so Carlton could exploit us a little bit more, but we do match up usually pretty well against the Blues, so it'll be a hot contest early on. Just hope the likes of Boak and Wines and Willem Drew in the middle are able to really step up and stamp their authority, because without Zach Butters, I think we're going to have to utilise them a bit more, and Robbie Gray might have to get an opportunity in there too, because his craftiness will be able to help us out massively going forward. So be interesting, and I can't wait to see what unfolds on Saturday night. Well, that wraps up my preview of Round 5, Port Adelaide versus Carlton. Let me know in the comments below what you're thinking about this one. What's your tip? What's your feel for selections? And if you're a Carlton supporter, let me know in the comments below as well. I'm very interested, very intrigued to see how this one goes. It's a big game, and only in round 5, but there is massive repercussions for whoever loses this one. So, danger game for Port, but we'll wait and see how this one pans out. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new for plenty more Port Adelaide and AFL content coming your way across the season. My name is Anthony, and as always, count the pair.